Today, like, we will cover like what is testing, why do we do testing, and what is the software testing life cycle. So as a manual tester, when you go somewhere, this is the first question you will get from any interviewer. So basically, why you need a manual testing is, once you get a requirement, you have to go through that and see like the application is developed as expected or not. So that is where you start doing the manual testing or the functional testing. So like, generally in the market they see like a manual testers as like they're just manual testers, and automation testers are like they are experts and all. But in reality, without a manual tester, without a functional tester, no product will be released, no product will be going to the market bug free or as per the expectation of the clients. So a manual tester plays a very vital role in the requirement analysis, and then like what we are delivering, the acceptance criteria. Say suppose if the user comes, you can see amazon.com itself. So in amazon, like user says like this product should be like this, and the offers should be placed on the right side, left side. So first thing is, as a manual tester, you will do that UI testing. Means you will look at the screen look and feel of the UI UX. It is called UI UX. Means what you are seeing on the screen. So the buttons are placed properly, the color coding is properly like aligned there to the screen. So all these things will be checked by a functional tester, a manual tester. Once he says okay, then only you will start automating. So you just can't go and automate the color is coming, the button is there, it is placed or not. That all you can't automate, right? Once it is checked and thoroughly like validated, and once the manual tester gives a sign off, then only you can automate. So that is where currently the market, we don't have a separate manual tester and separate automation tester. So the expectation is like an automation tester should do manual testing also. So they also should do manual testing, and then only they should do automation of whatever is they have developed, like whatever is developed. So that part they have to automate. So that is the expectation in the current market. But apart from that, still we have pure manual testers and functional testers in banking applications and insurance and domains, like few domains, because those parts, those cannot be automated, especially integration parts also. So in the integration part, you have to get into some other vendor portal, another system, and check there like is it working properly or not. So that is where like you need a manual, a functional tester. So you have to do it manually, not through automation, before we go for any automation implementations. Any questions still here? Any questions?
No, ma'am.
You're good, right? Okay. So now, software testing life cycle. So there are two things. One is software development life cycle. Another one is software testing life cycle. SDLC and STLC. In software development life cycle, we have parallelly the development and testing going on parallel. So when you have the requirement coming, developer also will go through that, tester also will go through that. When he is developing the application, designing the application, we are designing the test cases. When he is implementing, we are like deriving the test steps and test cases. And then once he gives after the deployment, we execute and we give a sign off after it is working properly. So in software development lifecycle, both go parallel. But we are more interested in the software testing lifecycle. So in the software testing lifecycle, first thing is requirement analysis. So from where are you getting the requirement? So this is one question which you will get in any interview. So what happens is, when you get into a project, you will have the business BRD documents, the business requirement documents. So those are given by the client or the stakeholders. So we will have the product owners, the business analyst will be preparing all these documents. So it is not the work of a QA, but QA also will be part of the requirement analysis sometimes. So first we will get the requirement from the business. So that could be a client, or that could be some stakeholder, or that could be somewhere like which project you are working for. So this requirement can be in the form of a Word document, or it could be in a form of a PDF. Okay. Then currently we are working in agile. So in agile, what we have user stories. So instead of giving a big word document with 100 pages, what they are doing is they are making into small parts. So those are the epics or the user stories. So it is made into smaller parts. So we have agile methodology, waterfall methodology. So in waterfall methodology we will get a big document. In agile methodology we will get small pieces, bits and pieces of the requirement. So once you get a requirement as a QA tester, you have to go through all the requirement, like line by line. You will go through the requirement, you will read the details, you will come up with your notes, you will think, and you will analyze that. Like what is that you are going to develop? So what all systems are there? So here you have to differentiate few things. One is UI UX. So can anyone tell me what is UI UX? Okay, user interface means what? What you are seeing, what you are seeing on the screen. If it
Yes.
is Amazon.in, so what you are seeing, that is the front end,
Front
UI
end only.
UX, the front end part. Now when you get the requirement, you will get the design of that UI UX in the requirement. So what is that? Where the button should be there, how the text box should be aligned, the wireframes. Remember this terminology, wireframes. Okay, so you will get a wireframe. Means what? Where, which place, what should be located, which place, what are the buttons or the text, even the text type, how much indentation it should be there, what should be the size of the text, what is the type of the text, the color of the text. So everything will be described there in the UI UX requirement in the wireframes. So as a tester, when you get into a new project which is starting from zero, first thing is they will start with the UI UX. So they will see like the look and feel should be like that. That is the front end. Okay, now getting into the next part, you click a submit button in your Amazon.in itself. When you click submit button, where it is going, in the back end of the submit button there are some services, web services, which will pass. Okay, the request will go through the submit button. So where it is going, it will go and hit the server. Server means what? Database. Okay, let me show you. Are you able to see my MS Paint? No. Hmm? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Paint, right? Are you seeing my MS Paint, a blank whiteboard?
No, only WordPad.
Okay, wait, I will share again. Now you can see, right? Okay, so this is the UI. So in UI, what all you will have in the UI? You will have the different text boxes, buttons, and what all you have, color coding, and then indentation, what is the size of the text, and what all you have, locations, location of where this button should be there. Okay, so where it should be there. So this is the UI. Okay, so from the UI, this is the database. So this database, you have different types. So you might have heard like SQL, Oracle, big data, and what else? Tell me one. Okay, MySQL, and
No,
that's all.
no SQL.
Okay, SQL is over. Tell me something else. You're not able to remember. Okay. So we'll have DB2 also. DB2 more are there. Like big data Hadoop. You might have heard about Hadoop also, right? So Hadoop, then DB2, all these are databases. Now, in this databases, again, this SQL, Oracle, DB2 are relational databases. Big data, Hadoop are non-relational. Means what? Relational means in SQL, if I give serial number 1, employee ID 1, I'll get his details. But in big data Hadoop, if I give serial number 1, employee 1, all his details will not come. There is no relation. So we have to query that because big data Hadoop has huge data and SQL Oracle DB can store only limited data, not as huge as big data and Hadoop. Okay. Now we have this UI. Now we have the database. Okay. Here, for example, you go to amazon.com, you create a username and password. Okay, you created a username and password. So what will happen? It will go to this database. So this Amazon is linked to the database. So that username, password is created in that specific column, specific row, specific table of the username. Okay, then you will create a password. Okay, the username and password is created. Username, password. Okay. So the username and password, when you create that inside this database. So database is specific to specific system. Google will have some other DB database. Amazon will have some other database. And your company will have some other database. Okay. So there are different types of databases specific to the company. So when you create a username and password, it will go into the database. It will go to that specific table, usernames table, and it will create. So how it will create? Here you will have the mediator, which are the services. Okay, so these are the services. So what are the services? These are the web services again. So there are different types of services we have. So those are again, this part also you should be knowing as a manual tester. So for example, web services, we have RESTful services, we have SOAP services. Okay. And we have different types, more types also. But generally, mostly we will use RESTful services and SOAP services. So from UI, when you create something, it will send the request. So the request will go from here. Okay. So the request is going from the front end UI to the back end database. In the middle, what you have, this is all the business layer, the services. Okay. So this request, it will go to the database and it will create a response. For the request, you will have the response. Okay. So it is a two and a fourth. Request will go from UI, response will come from the database to the UI. So, for example, now you get into your bank account details, right? You have a customer ID, you will enter your password and you'll click submit. When you click that submit button, so your username, password, the customer ID and password will go to the database. It will search there. The service will go. The REST service, web services, the microservices, whatever type that bank is allocating, it will go to the database. It will search your data, the username, password, it is correct or no, and then it will give the response. When you click on submit, it will accept that and it will go to the next page, right? If you give the correct customer ID and if you give the wrong username, wrong password, what will happen? It will throw an error. Means what? The request will go in the database, it will search for that password. The password is not shown here. then it will come back throwing an error that does not exist. It's a wrong password, right? Now you can relate it, right? What this is doing, how it works, the front end, the back end, the middleware, the middle services, right? Any questions still here? Okay. Now, in our testing, in functional testing, when we do, these are differentiated. One, two, three. First part is UI UX testing. Means what? The functionality testing. In the UI, when you will just check, you don't get into these details. In the UI, when you click on the username password and you click on submit, it will navigate to the next page. For example, Amazon.in. You get the username, password. You click on submit button. It goes to the next page, right? It will show like two deals and what all are there. Okay. After that, you will select one product, you will give the details, and then you will click on add to cart. Okay. After adding to cart, it is going to next page. Navigate to next page. Then you will have the summary. Then you will have a payment gateway. Then you will have the invoice. So what is that? This is all a business flow. Okay. Functional testing of UI, the business flow, web UI testing, the flow of the functionality, the flow of the product, how it is flowing. Is it flowing? Am I able to see it in the next page? Am I able to see it in the next page? Is the data coming properly? So that is all the UI testing which we do. Okay, web functionality, business flow, all these things come under the UI testing. Okay, now till here you are clear, first part. Second part is API services testing, web services testing. Okay, so we have different testers like manual tester with functional testing. Second part is services, web services means API testing. Database means DB testers. Okay, so we have three types of testers. You can go into any one or you can know three of them. If you know all the three, you are an expert in functional testing. Okay, now this coming to this middle part. So this entirely is a API testing. Okay, API testing, the services which we are testing. Okay, here in this part, once you are sending something to through the UI, it will pass through the service to the database. So an API, an endpoint, a service, it is going. Okay, so when you log into a google.com, right? So https://google.com, you will log in. When you click enter, right? So what it is doing, in the UI you are giving the URL. Okay, it will hit this service. That URL will hit this service. Go to the database, fetch the data. That's it. In the search engine, when you give in that empty box, like maybe you will search Java and click on search button. So in the UI, you are giving the Java. The endpoint is searching for Java. It will search in the database. It will fetch the data, and you will see the response in the UI. Okay, so this APIs which are there in the middle, they play a very vital role for the UI backend, anything, any testing. So whatever you are sending in the UI, it will pass in the form of a service, an endpoint. It will hit, it will go to the database, search, and fetch the data. And coming to this part, we will see this in detail. This can be sent in different forms. Okay, so that is API testing. Okay, this is all web services API testing. Means you will send a request, you will get some response. Any questions here? No questions?
Clear.
Okay. Now, getting into the database part. So, DB testers, what they will do, like, so in the database testing, what we have is we have the DBs, SQL, Oracle, Big Data, MySQL, all these databases will be there. So, the database is huge. For example, you have a bank account, right? So, in your bank account, so we are like 10 members now. 10 of us will have our usernames, our passwords, and then we will do transactions, we will add money, take money, delete money. All these things are there, right? So this is all stored in the database. Okay, in the DB, in SQL, we will have certain tables, huge tables will be there. So the mapping should be proper. When you are adding some money, you are transferring some money, it should go to your account. It should not come to my account. So that is where what you are doing is you have to go and check there in the database, is the mapping done properly. So we have some only DB testers who will test only that data, like this username is mapped to this account, this username is mapped to this location, this zip code is there in this location, and this promotion ID is there. Okay, the summary is there. He has withdrawn the amount, he has debited amount, he has credited amount. So that testing will be done only in the database on huge tables. Okay, so that is another part. Suppose if there is any mistake in the testing in the database, like you are not mapped to your own username and password, and instead of that your transaction 0.1 paisa, instead of adding to you it is added to me, so it is a loss, right? The transactions are differing, so it is causing loss, and it is a big issue. So in big time, say suppose Amazon dot in dot com, so there when you are paying, doing the payment in the payment gateway from your account, it should go to the Amazon whatever, the bank or whatever payment gateway they have kept, it should go to that. Okay, instead even if there is a 0.5 paise difference also, there are lakhs of users, so in that lakhs that will count, and it is a business loss, especially in the transactions. That is why we have to check the database validations also, and see that each and everything the data is updated and data is there clearly or not. Okay, so any questions here?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
now you understood the interlinking, right? The UI, the service, the backend database. If there is any transaction deductions, additions in the UI, the calculations happen through the endpoint in the database, and in the database whatever is updated, that will come through the service in the form of a response, and that is displayed in the UI. Okay, clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go for next topic. We are still in the requirement only. Now, so we have the requirement analysis in the software testing lifecycle. So once the requirement analysis is done, you know what to do, what is the functionality. Like if I'm clicking on the submit button, what all can happen. For example, username, password. When you click on submit, if it is valid, it will go to next page. If it is not valid, you will get an error. And if it is something else, you like if you're giving a wrong password or if you're changing a password, you will get this message also, right? This is not as per the standards, you should have one capital small. So all this is part of testing, manual testing. Okay, that is the requirement analysis. And in real time, as a QA, we should not refrain from only writing the requirement. We should think all types. So for example, I will put a ball on the table, a square table. So the scenarios what all I should think is that ball will fall from right side, left side. It will, if I hit it, it will jump. It will fall from front. It will fall from back. So all these types, like you should think from multiple direction. Yeah, so positive scenarios, negative scenarios, corner cases. So the requirement also you should think like that. You should not go, BA gave me the requirement, I'll just go through that. You shouldn't think that way. You should think in such a manner that you everything is covered. And for the business analyst, QA is the backbone. Why? Because business analyst will come up with scenarios, but as a QA, when we start doing, we will come up with more scenarios than the BA. Many times BAs also will get stuck, and as a QA You can go for the BA line also, or a product owner, or a scrum master way also. So first thing is you should know the functionality. The product knowledge is very important for a tester, business functional tester. Okay. Once the requirement is done, we go to the test planning. So what is test planning? So here again, we have multiple things. Okay. Let me share another MS Paint. Give me 1 minute. So we generally go for what is a test plan, test strategy. These wordings you might have heard, but you don't know exactly what it is. Okay. Test planning, again, we have two methodologies, right? This is waterfall. Okay. And this is agile. Okay. So there are two methodologies currently in the market. Okay. Generally, people, everyone is going for agile, not for waterfall. The reason is in waterfall, it will take 4 months for development. After 4 months, the developer will develop. He will give us for testing. So after 4 months, we will test. We will test for another 2 months. The QA will test for another 2 months, and then the defects will come. They will fix and give. That will take another 1 month. So it will take 7, 8, 9 months, maybe 1 year also, for that entire product to develop. After the product is developed, the client is not happy, so he will reject the project. So the project is gone. Okay, that is in waterfall. Again, one more thing is some projects are like very big projects, they need a huge infrastructure. So it will take time to develop, it will take time to test. So it will take 2 years to develop and test and give a release. So that is also waterfall. So some are successful, some are not successful in waterfall methodology. Similarly, the test planning here will also differ. How? Because in waterfall methodology, the planning should be for like 3 months. You will be planning for 3 months after the development is completed. So in the test planning, you have to go through the requirements. You have to go through the requirements, and then you have to design the scenarios. Then you have to test that. Then you have to test execution, and then you will raise the defects, and then you will give a sign off. Okay. So all this should be planned. The requirements, you will have the BRDs, the Word documents, and all those things. Design scenarios, this we will write in HPLM or Excel, or we will write in Teams, anywhere. So, depending on the project, we will design the scenarios. Then, execution is whatever we wrote the scenarios, we will execute that, and then we will get defects. We will raise the defects. The developer will fix and give us, and again, then the end will give a sign off. Okay, everything is working good. So, this is all what test planning. So, when you design the scenarios, you should know how big is the requirement, how many days it will take, how many scenarios you can derive in execution time. Execution, you will test piece by piece, then you will test the entire functionality, entire application, and then you will say it is working fine. Then defects, so this also, where are you tracking the defects? Is it Jira, or is it HPLM, or Rally, or some other tool? And then you'll give the sign off. While giving sign off, what all documents you are providing, the evidences, like what types of testing you did. So all these things will be there in the sign off. So this is all should be planned for waterfall. Okay, so it's a big plan. You have to sit and design this, make it a big plan, because it will work for 1 year or 10 months. So it is a long term thing, waterfall. Now, coming to agile. So in agile, the test planning is different. Why? Because in agile, every 2 weeks, we will complete the requirement, we'll do the demo, and we'll take the new feature. So it goes on, it's very fast. Every 2 weeks or 3 weeks sprint we have. So in agile, these terminologies you should Remember, sprint, stand up, retrospective, and demos. Okay, so here you will have sprint. So this sprint could be 2 or 3 or 4 weeks also. And after 3 4 sprints, you will have a release. So means what? After every 1 month, you will have a release. So you should plan the test planning in such a way that in 2 weeks, how much you will test, which part you will test, what requirement you will test, how many scenarios will be there. So this is only for 2 weeks. You are planning this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That's all. Here you are planning it long for months in waterfall. But in agile, it is only for 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks. After that, you will do a regression and you will just release a product. So the product is released. A small bits and pieces we will keep on releasing in agile. So in agile, advantages of agile is you know where you are going. You know how things are working, like if there are any changes which are required, so you will go for that. So if the client is asking, the customer is asking, like, no, I don't like this button here, place it some other place, I don't like this offer, instead of 20% give only 5% promotion, 5% offer. So all these things we can accommodate in this agile, because we know every 2 weeks we'll see like what is happening, where it is going. But in waterfall we can't do that, because first of all it will take to develop itself like 6 7 months, and then if the new changes come, then it cannot be accommodated, the requirement will be freezed in waterfall. But in agile, anytime the requirements, like, we keep on taking and we will accommodate in the next sprint, and we will try to implement that and we will try to release that. So that is the advantage of agile. So that is where most of the companies everywhere you see agile only currently. Very less companies, less projects have the waterfall. Okay, any questions here?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, you are clear with agile and waterfall. Now, in the interview, if anyone asks you, did you work in agile, and can you tell me about the different ceremonies? This is a common question. So you should tell them, I work in agile, and we have 2 week sprints, and we have daily stand-ups, and we have E2E triage calls. So triage calls means defect triage calls. Let me write here. And we have daily stand-up, stand up, and then we have retrospective meetings, we have demos with the stakeholders and the clients. These are all the meetings you have. Now, what is the team structure? So team structure also, you will get this question. So team structure, so you should say you have 6 developers and 2 QA. So here when you are going as a manual tester, right? One scrum master, and then who else you have? A BA. A BA is all the common for different scrum teams. Okay, he will be this BA, na business analyst. Yeah, he will be common for 5 6 scrum teams, because the application will be similar. So his work is only to get the requirement and tell the people this is the requirement, you should work like this, that's all. Okay, so the team structure, when you are telling them, tell them there are 6 developers, 2 QA. In the 2 QA, or else we'll put 3 QA. You are only functional tester. Don't go for automation. You tell them that you are a manual tester, functional tester, and there is one automation tester, and there is one more QA who will be both manual and automation. He will do both the things. Okay, 3 QA people are there. So when a question comes, what is your team structure? You should tell this way: 6 developers, 3 QA, one Scrum Master, and business analyst, who is common for all the different Scrum teams. So the question comes that you do you have a QA lead? So you should tell there is no QA lead in Agile. In Waterfall, you will have a QA lead, but in Agile, no, it is independently driven. So in the sprint planning, the meetings here are again sprint planning, grooming, backlog grooming sessions, and then we have discovery sessions. Means what? Here you have the requirement in waterfall, but here what happens? The requirement keeps on coming, right, in agile. So you will have discovery sessions. You will discover what is there going on, what is the feature, what is the functionality, what types of tools are there, what is the front end, what is the back end. So you will see, get into the details. So these are all meetings like discovery sessions, and retrospective is very important here. Okay, the stand-ups, demos, and all you should tell, but these are the main sessions in the agile. In sprint planning, you will pick the work for the 2 weeks, like how much you are going to work there, how much you will take. And then backlog grooming is, again, you will have the requirement in the form of epics, so you will go through that. Discovery sessions is, you will have the requirement, you will dig more details. Retrospective is, after 2 weeks you will have a meeting and you will discuss like what these developers did, what the QAs did. And it is a sort of like blaming one another. QA will say this developer did not give me the build on time, and the developer will say this QA raised all bugs which are not defects only. So that way, in retrospective, we will come up with the points like this is what happened, and next time we are not going to repeat that. Okay, that will be taken as an action item in the retrospective. And after this, we will have a sprint closure, and the next sprint will start. Means next piece of work will start again from the scratch. Okay, any questions here? Are you guys
Clear,
getting?
ma'am.